water. It's a team from Toronto, Canada. We, the North, are now we, the champions.
What is going on, Raptors Nation? It is Luca here, back with the Raptors Nation podcast. It has been a crazy, crazy day as the NBA draft is officially in the rear view mirror. I got my guy Sean here as we're going to be breaking down things as the Toronto Raptors. It ended up being a very, very busy draft for this team. I mean, just a few months ago, the Raptors said they weren't going to use all 4 of their picks in this draft. And then, Sean, they trade back into the draft twice to get picks number 45 and 57. So all in all, the Raptors have 4 new players, 4 new rookies joining their team. They take Jacoby Walter out of Baylor at 19, Jonathan Mobo, 31, Jamal Shed at number 45, and then number 57, Ulrich Chomchi. We're going to talk about the NBA draft and the trade. Before we do just that, guys, do a solid. Hit a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more pods and videos just like this. Sean, it was a crazy, crazy draft. Before we get into it, just like, yeah, how you feeling, man? I know you've been going crazy with this draft over the last 48 hours.
Yeah, it was a exciting 2-day draft experience. One little pet peeve that I tweeted about on X was like, can we please not do round 2 in a studio? I think it completely ruins the vibe. Especially if they're trying to like make round 2 this big deal. Having it in a studio is not how you make it a big deal, in my opinion. But it was a really, really fun group. I know this class got nodded a ton as being a weak draft class and whatever. But I had a ton of fun with this one. My favorite class I've evaluated through 3 years. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about some Raptors picks.
Yeah, so before we get into the picks, we are actually going to talk about a trade that the Raptors made. So this kind of came out of nowhere. So it's funny. I was kind of getting ready for things. You know, Raptors make their big pick, Jacoby Walter. We'll talk more about him in detail in just a bit. But second round, and, you know, the Raptors on the clock for number 31. But then they make a trade, Sean, about an hour before the start of the second round with the Sacramento Kings, and they execute a trade that I think is just a phenomenal one for the team. They trade away essentially their worst player, a guy who was unplayable for this franchise, and Jalen McDaniels. Obviously, his tenure never went the way that Raptors fans had hoped it would go with this team after, you know, inking him to a deal last summer. They trade him to the Kings for Davion Mitchell, Sasha Vezenkov, and the 45th pick of the 2024 NBA draft, which ended up being Shed. And yeah, I mean, the Raptors essentially give that up and they get Mitchell, who now slates in as the Raptors' backup point guard. Davion Mitchell, obviously, he's a defense first guy, great on-ball defender. And then I'm not sleeping on, you know, Sasha, because this is a guy who I think is going to benefit from a change of scenery. And I think he's going to end up, you know, playing well under Darko. So I know there's still some talk that he might go to Europe, and maybe this changes his mind just because he's in a new position with this Raptors team where he could have a bit more of a different role. So you consider the value there. You do get the draft pick as well. And then if that wasn't good enough, Sean, the icing on the cake, this was actually reported by Sean Cunningham. He's a reporter for the Sacramento Kings, but basically the Raptors are also getting the Portland Trailblazers 2025 second round pick. So, Sean, what on earth happened here? How are the Raptors able to get all of this for McDaniels? Like, I know the Sacramento Kings, this was a salary dump from their perspective, kind of getting off that Mitchell contract. But from the Raptors' perspective, again, they turn away a bad asset, their worst player, into, you know, some value back. I think this is a huge win for the Raptors. I went as far as saying it's a fleece.
Incredibly impressive for the Raptors. That's a really good deal. It's a really, really good deal for them. I like that trade a lot.
Yeah, I think it addresses, you know, a couple of things that they needed right off the bat. And, you know, they end up getting back into this draft and they get another pick for next year's draft. And if they are, in fact, you know, going to keep that 2025 second round, or that 2025 draft is touted to be in, you know, a very, very deep, impressive draft. So obviously, you know, having any pick in that draft is going to be worthwhile. Sure. So you just look at the pick, Sean, in essence. You look at the 4 new guys the Raptors bring in. Let's first start with Jacoby Walter. So, he wasn't one of the guys that I chalked up because I thought he was going to go sooner, and he thought that as well. I mean, he admitted he didn't work out with the Raptors. Bobby Webster said that they didn't expect Walter to be there, and obviously because he was there, they wasted no time in taking him. So you look at Walter, he did show a lot of great things at Baylor. What really stands out to me, Sean, is the fact that he can turn into an elite 3-and-D type of player. He's going to already have that shooting, and he could become an elite shooter, something that the Raptors need. I know the numbers don't stand out to you on paper in terms of his shooting percentages, but Bobby Webster attributed to a knee injury that he had. So this is a guy that's supposed to shoot the ball very well. He does have some nice defensive upside, and can he kind of be that nice 3-and-D and really give the Raptors a potential, I want to say, starting shooting guard? Because I don't think he's going to start right away, but I think he definitely has that capability. And all of a sudden he's slated in nicely with Emmanuel Quickly in that backcourt, playing alongside Barnes. Again, he wasn't one of my guys because I didn't think he would be there, but given kind of how the board shaped up, I thought this ended up being a really, really nice pick for the Toronto Raptors. I do like Walter, and I just think, his character, his demeanor, his confidence, he's already said all the right things. He wants to be here. Your reaction to the pick, and what do you think Walter's going to bring to this team?
I think it's perfect value for the Raptors, given the spot. I had Jacoby Walter a little bit lower on my board. I didn't view him as like a lottery guy or a fringe lottery guy. I had Jacoby Walter 20th on my board, so like right around spot value for the Raptors. I think he has a ton of potential to turn into a really, really good player. I think he gonna try to find my scouting report right quick. I think with Jacoby, man, I'm glad you touched on the shooting stuff. I think I'm not even going to attribute it to an injury because I think there's a much easier explanation for the shooting percentages than a knee injury. And I'm not saying like that maybe didn't affect it at all, but I really just think it's that the difficulty of shots he was taking. Not even I'm not like I feel like sometimes when you hear difficulty of shot, that makes it feel like the player is shot chucking, which isn't always the case. For him, it was the difficulty of shot, like legitimately, was so high because he was such a big focal point for Baylor last season. I think he has good size, he has a good frame, really good 3-point shooter. I think he's gonna be an interesting fit into what Darko wants to do offensively next season, which I'll be excited to see if he does eventually crack the rotation. This does seem like the end for Gary Trent Jr. because if you're bringing Gary Trent Jr. back, then I'm like, okay, what are we doing here with Gary Trent Jr., Gary Dick, and Jacoby Walter, where you have 2 3-and-D upside wings, if you will, 2/3s for the long term, and Grady Dick and Jacoby Walter. I think he has some untapped potential offensively, but like it's not a ton because I think he is limited as a playmaker. I don't like the stuff creation stuff, but if you're drafting him to be like your long-term Kentavious Caldwell Pope, then hell yeah, like that's fine. And that's why I wasn't able to really get super bought in on Jacoby Walter being a lottery guy for me personally. Or I've seen him in a few people's that respects like big boards that had him in the top 10 and compared him to Chris Middleton. I'm like, what? Like, I completely disagreed with that, but I think he's a good player. He's a good player. I've warmed up to the pick, I think, a little bit. Like my initial reaction last night was like, okay. And I think right now, I'm opening up to a lot more, and I'm curious what I see where I give the Raptors grade wise for this pick when I do my draft grades on my channel.
I don't know. I think Walter could end up. I know like the term steal gets thrown out a ton, but this could be one of those picks where it's like we look back at it and say, wow, how did the Raptors end up getting them at 19? Like the Ringer had Walter as their number 3 pick in their way too early draft, mock draft. This was a little while ago. So he's definitely got the skill set, I think, to thrive at the next level.
I think whether or not you agree with the mindset or not, I think them taking Jacoby rather than taking like Isaiah Collier, who for me was pretty clear BPA, best player available at that time in the draft, them taking Jacoby kind of signal that one, we are paying Emmanuel Quickly this summer, one, and we view Emmanuel Quickly as our long-term point guard. Because if they had any doubt in their mind that, hey, Emmanuel Quickly for the next 5 years could be our starting point guard, I think they would have taken Collier at 19. If they had any doubt, even to a certain extent, that like Jakob Poeltl would be their long-term center, or at least for like the next year or two for sure, right? And even then, I think I would just go back to my like long-term point. I think they would have taken an Yves Missi. I think they would have taken a Deron Holmes there at 19. So again, like whether or not you agree with that mindset or not, I think that's their justification for making the pick your Walter. And yeah, ultimately a pretty solid pick in my opinion.
I do agree, though. I do think this signals the end of Gary Trent Jr.'s time.
Yeah. I'm going to really dislike this pick. I'm going to really dislike this pick if they bring back Gary Trent Jr.
Well, now all of a sudden the Raptors have all these guards. They have until midnight at the time of this recording to decide what they're going to do with his team option. The expectation is that they're going to pick it up and trade him. And then, Gary Trent Jr., I don't expect him to be back. I think this kind of puts an end to that. So, hopefully this could be a nice little hybrid between, you get a guy who could shoot it as well as Gary Trent Jr., and then a guy who can defend as well as an Ochai Agbaji, who obviously the Raptors have on the roster. So hopefully he could be just an upgrade, a level up of like a 3-and-D type of player that the Raptors can have for many years to come. And I like that. Yeah, he's super young, 19 years old. He's going to fit in nicely with this young core. Yeah. So that was 19. And then 31, the Raptors began with drafting a guy who you said you liked a lot at this spot. This is such a Masai Ujiri pick. I really like this pick. He was on my list basically when I looked at potential targets for the Raptors at 31. Jonathan Mobo out of the University of San Francisco, 6'6", massive 7'2" wingspan. He averaged 14.2 points, 10.1 rebounds per game last season while shooting at 63.6% from the field. A little fun fact is that Mobo is actually a longtime friend of Scotty Barnes, and they grew up together at West Palm Beach in Florida. And get this, Sean, Barnes was actually at Mobo's draft party.
Really?
Like, he literally was there. So like this sparked
that's awesome
conversation. Like, hey, did Scotty influence this pick? Did he, did tell Raptors management, we got to take Mobo? Who knows? Probably Barnes had influence. I mean, he is the face of the franchise. But aside from that, I do like this pick for the Raptors. He's got great size. He can play make like a guard. He's got great athleticism, high defensive upside. Obviously, he's going to come in as a non-shooter in the NBA. But when you just look at, the defense, on ball, the way he's able to defend multiple positions, I think he's going to, have an opportunity to grow here. And I just love the type of energy he plays with. I think he does all the little things well. So yeah, what's your reaction to this pick? And again, I think this is like such a Raptor-esque pick.
This is such a Raptors pick. Like, versatility being the name of the game, I feel, for the Raptors. This is such a pick, and such this speaks to them, man. And I went to the NIT game. So San Francisco is playing Cincinnati for an NIT tournament here in Cincinnati. I went to go see that game. Not completely familiar with Jonathan Mogbo as a player, and I completely walked away with like, oh man, like this dude's an NBA. He didn't even play that great. He didn't shoot the ball that well that game or anything. Like, he shot 5 for 13 from the floor at 10 points or whatever, 10 boards. I mean, 7 assists, steal, 2 steals and a block though. And I was like, yeah, this is an NBA player. And you get more and more in depth of like some of his tape and stuff like that. He is such a fun player. He's listed as 6'6", but he has a 7'2" wingspan. Like, his wingspan is nuts, which allows him to kind of play like a true 4.
Yeah.
Where if you like typically 6'6" are like 3s, he's a 4 in all reality. Like, he's a 4, maybe even a stretch 5 because of just how freaking elite of a rebounder he is. Like, he's such a good rebounder, such a like dynamic passer. You love just a work ethic and things like that as well. Like, I mean, for people that don't know, left high school without a single Division I offer. Spent a year, I think I want to say 2 years actually. JUCO, went to Independence Community College in Kansas and Northeastern Oklahoma A&M College, and then gets to San Francisco, has an incredible career. Not like a great shooter, right? Or like really not a threat at all, but like the defense, the versatility that he has to guard on the perimeter a little bit, the rebounding, like we already mentioned. This is fun. This is one of my favorite round 2 picks. I'm kind of mad I didn't get to talk about it as much like on the stream because I feel like at the beginning of round 2, everything kept going back to back to back. But I'm going to rave about this pick a ton in the future.
Yeah, he definitely looks like a guy that can, fit into the rotation as kind of, a bench piece. And yeah, I just love the amount of energy he plays with. I think, he's going to be able to fit in nicely. And I like the fact that he does have that friendship and familiarity with Barnes. So that's somebody who can obviously, Barnes can take him under his wing and kind of show him the ropes here. But yeah, no, I had this guy as one of my top picks for 31, and I had a feeling the Raptors were going to end up taking him. The Raptors, they did get a lot of calls apparently for 31, and for them to not be tempted by a trade and end up sticking it out, it tells you a whole lot about how much they were into this pick. And yeah, hopefully this pans out well for them. So that was their second pick of the draft, first pick of the second round. And then, we all thought it was over. That was it. But then the Raptors striking another trade, getting into the draft. They end up getting number 45 via the Sacramento Kings, and they end up getting another guard, one of Houston's best players, a guy that helped lead them to the number 1 seed, Jamal Shed at number 45. So, yeah, I mean, Jonathan Gavoni said this on the broadcast that he said that NBA teams compare him to like a guy like Jose Alvarado, just an ultimate pest, is going to guard you, so tough. He ended up being the winningest player in his draft class. He won 120 out of 138 games. So that's just unbelievable. And Gavoni actually went as far as saying that he thinks Shed is the best full court defender in this year's draft. So I thought that was just huge, huge praise. Gavoni went on to saying, just bringing nonstop intensity, toughness, and he was obviously a huge piece of that Houston defense. Got him as far as they did. Unfortunately, he did suffer that injury, if you remember, in the Sweet 16 against Duke. That's when they lost. So, yeah, I mean, the Raptors are adding just another tough defensive guard here. And, they trade for Mitchell, and now they make this pick. So,
Jamal Shed's a dog. I'll just say that. Like, he impacts winning at such an incredibly high level. Like, if you look at that Houston team of Jamal Shed off the floor and look at that Houston team with Jamal Shed on the floor, it's a night and day difference. And it doesn't surprise me why the Raptors would value that at this spot, especially, right? This was, one of, they picked him at 45. I had Jamal Shed 43. So this is really, really good value. Good pick and roll initiator. A good playmaker in general. I think that has really, really good feel. He's an elite defender, man. Like, sure, he does have the size and maybe even the build to a certain extent that you would love to see from like a guard that like an elite guard defender. But what he lacks in size and length and things of that nature, because he's 6 foot with a 6'3" wingspan. He just makes up for it, which is pure competitiveness and dog. Like, his technique is incredibly sound, from how he navigates ball screens, how he, closes out on defenders on the weak side, things of that nature. He's awesome. And I think it's interesting getting Davion Mitchell and him. I actually almost kind of wish they didn't get Davion Mitchell now and just say, here, Jamal Shed, go nuts with the backup point guard spot. But he's such a competitor. Like, I think he's going to at some point take that spot throughout the season. Yeah. I'm willing to. I'm really confident in that he's going to take that spot at some point. And yeah, Jamal Shed's fun. He's super, super fun. One of my more favorite picks in the 40s for sure.
Yeah, maybe this is just an insurance policy. If things don't work out with Mitchell, you just got that 1 year left. So Raptors can kind of move on from that. And, you got Shed waiting in the wing here because, yeah, I think he's going to bring it. I think he's going to play hard. And as of right now, I would say Mitchell is the backup point guard and Shed's kind of that third string. But, hey, he can make things interesting. And, yeah, maybe he's that transitional backup point guard where, in a season from now, that could be kind of his opportunity, especially if he impresses with the reps that he's given. So, yeah, just kind of seeing the tape, hearing all the good things about him. Obviously, coming from a elusive program He helped spearhead that defense, which was a lethal one at times. Raptors go with yet another guard. And yeah, I mean, considering where he's taken here, I think it is nice value. So not too many people complaining with that pick when the Raptors made the selection. And
Yeah, I
then, I
really
mean,
wanted the Heat to take him. That would have been such a Heat pick, in my
the
opinion.
who? Oh, the Heat. Yeah, that
I
would have been
was
the Heat pick.
sold Miami was taking him.
The Raptors traded into the draft once again, and they get 57 from the Timberwolves, which was passed around a couple times, and they get Ulrich Chomchi. And this was a guy who actually linked to the Raptors, maybe as their pick at 31, along with Mobo, but what do you know? They end up getting both guys. So Chomchi is such, like we said, Mobo is such a Masai Ujiri pick. This is like the ultimate Masai Ujiri pick. Just raw prospect, 18 years old, international prospect, playing for Basketball Africa League. Obviously, we know Masai's ties with all he does over there. And, this to me is just one of those guys that just is so intriguing that you almost have to take a chance on him here. I think it's insane value considering the draft is, 57. You're about to close out the draft. You just take them and you just hope for the best. It's obviously going to be a type of, draft and stash type of player. He's going to have plenty of time, you would think, to develop a Raptors 905 before he gets a shot with the main team down the line. But you just look at, he's 6'10", some of the qualities he
7 for
possesses.
wingspan.
Like, yeah, just insane considering that. And he did shoot at 42.4% from the field and 38.1% from three in a couple of Africa League qualifying games. So, I mean, this could turn into something.
If he my comp is Serge Ibaka. If he turns out, he's
Serge Ibaka?
incredibly raw. Like, and Serge Ibaka might be a bit steep, like 80% of what Serge Ibaka was, maybe. But man, like all the tools, and like this is the perfect draft and go sit your butt in the G League for a year and develop like pick. This is the best case of that. It makes a ton of sense why the Raptors would trade back in one last time to make sure they're able to secure Ulrich Chomchi. Really fun guy. Like, sure, the mechanic stuff is in there, the footwork and the technique and stuff is all the way there. But like I said, this is just a perfect gamble. Like, if this works, we have the potential to get an all NBA defensive caliber player. And I'm saying that it's, again, very steep, but I'm willing to go there here at, 57 or whatever, right? Super toolsy, nice fluidity. The way he's able to move defensively and move from spot to spot on the floor is super, super fun for a guy of his size and stature. I mean, like, even if he's like good defensively and can only catch lobs, that is a win of a pick. And I think like I can see him translated to do that. So yeah, I like this pick a ton. You get an upside pick here at 57. You get two guys at 31 and at 45. If you said, hey, look, we need you to be 12 to 15 minute rotation guys for us, I feel fine that they can do that. So great picks here by Masai and the Raptors. So overall, I think I was lower on the pick at 19 than I obviously am at here the other spots. But I think as a draft as a whole, the Raptors had a really, really fun draft. And I'm excited to see how I grade them out in next day or two.
Yeah, I was going to ask you for your grade, but I won't put you on the spot.
Right now, my guess would be like a B+. I think that's what I'm going to go with eventually.
I think that's really fair. Like, and you look back at this draft, I think the Raptors actually did a really nice job. I do. It's funny because they pivoted out of the draft. It seemed they lost one, obviously their own first round pick, which ended up going to the San Antonio Spurs, and then they traded number 29, which are their first round pick, which ended up being number 29 to the Utah Jazz. But then they end up getting two more picks in this draft, and you just kind of look at the collection of players that they got, just the amount of upside. Yeah, especially like their pick at 19. I would probably say that was my favorite pick. But then you look at these second round picks, like, we just talk about some of the potential on these guys. They can turn into something, especially when you talk about Mobo and now, Chomchi with the second last pick in the draft. So we know like Masai Ujiri and the Raptors, they do their due diligence with these drafts. We know they have a great track record, kind of finding some hidden gems in the past. Guys like OG, Pascal Siakam, can they replicate that? Obviously they made the big pick of Scotty Barnes, who's now the face of the franchise in 2021. And I think the Raptors, they're going to have to hit these picks. They're going to have to have these picks pan out and find these hidden gems, which you hope these players are that for this rebuild to kind of speed up a bit and for the Raptors to get back to where they want to be. So given the amount of kind of chances they had and darts they had at the dartboard, I think some of these are going to stick. And I feel really good about, two of these four players at least,
Yep.
end up being like solid contributors, obviously with the first rounder. And then I would definitely bet that one of these second rounders are going to end up, pleasing a lot of people and end up panning out nicely for this Raptors team.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really fun draft class, really good group.
All right, Sean. So, this draft was nuts and it was a lot of fun. I will say this. I know there was a lot of like chatter about it being obviously not the most talented, but it ended up being unpredictable. You said this to me off air. A lot of trades. Like there was a lot of stuff going on.
Especially in the second round. Like it was honestly getting hard to keep up. It was honestly hard to keep up.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I think I got like legitimately 3 or 4 picks behind for a second. People were like, Sean, we're at pick 53. You still have pick 50 on your screen. Like you update your ticker. Ah, crap, my bad, guys.
I mean, Shams was apparently logged out of his account. So
that was nuts.
All hell was breaking loose. Obviously, the whole Bronny stuff going on. Gets to play with his dad. That's going to be super, super cool. So, yeah, all in all, this was a fun draft. First 2-day draft. And a lot of good moments to come from this day. So, or from both days. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot to talk about in the coming days. Guys like Sean going to be putting out their full draft grades and all that fun stuff. And Sean, I mean, you have maybe a day to breathe, and then it's off to NBA free agency, which is going to be a frenzy on starting on June 30th. So that should be a lot of fun as well.
I'm not going to have any time to breathe, but it's fun. I appreciate this time of year a ton. It's a fun time. And I'm excited for what's about to happen next. See how the Raptors build out their rosters. And yeah, it's going to be fun. Super excited.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review wherever you get this podcast. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel. If you are new, go and follow Sean as well. You can check him out on X. You see his username right there. Go follow all the great content he's been working on. And obviously, you can follow him at Lakers Nation. And also, Sean's got his own personal stuff coming out. Sean, why don't you tell the people a little bit about that?
Yeah, you guys could go check out the Sports Headline Show on YouTube. Got a bunch of, like Luca said, draft grades coming out soon. I'll have my free agency reactions, stuff like that. Just a bunch. If you like basketball-related stuff in general, go check that out. Obviously, I'll talk Raptors and just the league in general. And then we'll get dabble into some other stuff, too, throughout the rest of the summer.
Sean was the OG on this channel, and we're definitely going to have him as a mainstay guest here and there. So, Sean, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining us for the draft. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, Luca. It's always a great time to hop on and talk some Raptors basketball with you. And yeah, you've absolutely killed it with the channel. And yeah, make sure you guys subscribe already if you haven't already. What are you doing? Like seriously, look yourself in the mirror and say, why have I not subscribed yet?
Listen to the man. He knows what he's talking about. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'll be back at it this weekend with more content. There's gonna be a lot of stuff coming out with the Bruce Brown decision, and then obviously free agency is going to be wild, so be on the lookout for that. That is it for me. It's Luca signing off. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you all again in the next one.